Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So glad you're here. It's always a joy to share new things with you. Today, I'm excited to bring you a special book review created with the help of Notebook LLM. We're going to take a closer look at two of my latest books, both set on the beautiful island of Bali, and both told through the eyes of dogs. Yep, that's right. These stories are written from a dog's point of view. It's a fun and thoughtful way to explore some big topics, while seeing the world from a different perspective. In the first book, we dive into the issue of overtourism, how the growing number of visitors is changing life in Bali for both locals and animals. Through a dog's daily experiences, we get to see the subtle shifts in environment, culture, and community. The second book looks ahead to the future, exploring how technology, climate change, and social trends might shape our world again, all through the eyes of our four-legged friends. It's a playful yet powerful way to reflect on what kind of world we're building, not just for ourselves, but for all beings who call Bali home. This review will walk you through the key ideas from both books. And if you'd like to read more, both books are available on Amazon Kindle. And best of all, they're free for Kindle Unlimited members. All right then, let's jump into the review. Hope you enjoy it.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different, but I promise it's going to offer some incredibly sharp insights into some big, complex problems.
Yeah, it's quite unique.
We're diving into not one, but two fiction books, both set in Bali, and both told from a truly, unusual perspective through the eyes of two dogs.
That's right. So forget academic papers or, news reports for a moment. Our sources today are really the lived, felt experiences of Caramel, who's a Shih Tzu, and Christmas, a Corgi mix.
And they're humans, Mock and Rachel, they live in Bali.
Exactly. And these books use this canine viewpoint as like a really powerful lens to look at some very real, very pressing global issues.
So our mission today is to unpack the key insights, those surprising observations, and maybe some thought-provoking themes that pop up when you see issues like, say, environmental damage, economic inequality, the impact of tech, even disaster response. Not from our human angle, but from one grounded purely in both sensory experience and instinct.
The sources are Tainted Tides and Stinging Sands, Bali Breaks Beneath Overtourism, and Two Dogs Notice First. We'll just call that book one.
Okay.
And Caramel and Christmas, Tales of Bali, Through Dog Eyes, 2030, and The Future of Love, Loss, and Technology, which is book 2.
Got it.
And the authors, Makoto Manabe and Kaede, what they've done is kind of blend these documented real-world challenges with some really grounded speculative fiction. Using the dog's perspective makes these abstract problems feel, visceral.
Exactly. It's not just a story. It feels like a shortcut to actually feeling the weight of these issues. So let's start with book 1, Tainted Tides and Stinging Sands. This one really hits you with the immediate, often hidden tolls of overtourism on Bali.
Yeah, specifically how Caramel and Christmas experience it.
Right.
And the core idea is honestly brilliant. By focusing on the dog's heightened senses, smell, hearing, feeling, the book just bypasses all the human analysis. It shows the raw, unspoken consequences of mass tourism. They don't read headlines about pollution. They walk through it. They breathe it in.
And what they experience is this paradise under just immense pressure. The book details the environmental degradation so vividly, like the tides bringing in less fish and, more plastic.
Yeah.
You get these really striking visuals. Kuta Beach isn't just sand anymore. It's described as pink plastic mixed with white sand. A really disturbing mix.
It really is. And the sources used in the book, they back this up with some staggering data points. We're talking about 89 tons of debris flowing into the ocean daily.
Wow.
Creating areas with, on average, 7 pieces of plastic waste for every single square meter of coastline. Beaches like Kuta and Legion just face this constant tons and tons onslaught of plastic trash.
And it's not just the big stuff, right? The book talks about microplastic fragments everywhere and chemical runoff creating these oily sheens on the water.
Which Caramel immediately knows to avoid. Her instincts just scream danger.
Yeah. And they notice the quieter signs too, don't they? Like fewer small fish or birds not gathering near contaminated spots anymore. The whole vibrant ecosystem they knew is just fading.
It is. And beyond that direct pollution, there's the sheer infrastructure overload. The development isn't just something you see, you hear it.
Oh, that mechanical roaring.
Yes, that constant grating sound from resort construction near their home, it becomes this relentless disruption.
And it just goes on and on. Construction shifts, 7 days a week, for like 18 months minimum.
Right near their sanctuary.
Yeah. And for the dogs, this noise isn't just like a annoying background sound. It's an assault on their sense of safety. Caramel's barking actually evolves, it says, into pure fury.
And it sets off this chain reaction, doesn't it? Like waves of protest barks across the whole neighborhood. It really shows how that huge development disrupts even the most basic parts of life.
They also feel it physically, like familiar walking paths suddenly blocked by new construction sites.
Or the roar of luxury cars replacing the quieter motorbikes they're used to. And even the smell, that pervasive sewage smell from pipes laid without proper permits. Another sensory clue that the infrastructure's failing under the strain.
And then there's the water scarcity creeping in, which is something the dogs experience really personally, right? Their water bowl just sits empty.
Yeah, forcing them to wait for sips from Mac or Rachel's water bottles. It's such a small detail, but it highlights that much bigger problem.
It really brings it home. The sources mention the municipal water cuts happening all the time for Mac and Rachel, like the third time in a week at one point.
But community-wide, it's worse.
Yeah.
Village wells are actually running dry while, the tourist hotel pools stay perfectly full.
That contrast.
It's stark. And the strain on the ancient irrigation systems, the Subac, it leads to these poignant moments, like hearing about a farmer who had to move because, as he puts it, Bali's forgotten how to feed its own people.
Yeah.
The water just diverted away.
Which points straight to the economic inequality that this kind of tourism just ramps up. It's not just about fancy resorts. It's about locals being completely priced out. The book shows these huge jumps in average rent and property values in their area year after year, like 37% rent increase, 68% property value jump.
While local median income barely moved, up only 4%, it's unsustainable.
And wages aren't keeping up either. Average grocery costs jumped 38% since early 2024. Local wages only up 6%.
That gap is just massive. And when food costs jump like that, but your wages don't, it translates directly into hardship. For Mac and Rachel, it literally means pounding out kibble like prison rations.
And for Caramel, it means scavenging for chicken feed. Or even, heartbreakingly, going on a hunger strike, just obsessively circling empty bowls.
That's what the book calls the crisis of care. These huge, abstract economic forces directly hit the well-being, the basic security of the animals in the community. It's such a powerful way to show how systemic inequality really trickles down.
To the most vulnerable.
Exactly. And the displacement is shown so clearly. Property taxes getting reassessed, not based on current use, but on potential value if converted for tourism.
Forcing impossible choices.
Totally. Families who've lived in their homes for generations suddenly face tax hikes they just cannot afford. There are examples of family compounds lived in for decades being sold off.
And flipped super quickly into vacation rentals.
Yeah, the book calls it systematic displacement disguised as market forces.
That's a really potent phrase. And it hits local businesses too, right? Like Ibu Katut's spice stall.
A community fixture. Forced to close because the rent just became impossible?
So all these individual stories, seen through the dog's senses, the empty bowls, the constant noise, the bad smells, they paint this incredibly vivid picture of a paradise just straining under pressure it wasn't built for.
Precisely. The dogs don't give you economic reports or environmental analyses. They just live the consequences. And their perspective makes these huge global issues feel incredibly personal, deeply sensory. It really makes you think about that question posed. What if paradise was never meant to be, consumed like this?
That's a really heavy foundation. And book 2, Caramel and Christmas, Tales of Bali. Through Dog Eyes. 2030. It builds on that, leaping forward to 2030.
Right.
And it explores how technology starts to intertwine with this already stressed world, and especially the human-animal bond.
Yeah, this one is fascinating. It's speculative fiction, definitely, but it feels incredibly grounded. It takes current trends, the boom in pet tech, all the talk about animal sentience laws, gene therapy advancements, and projects them into a very near future. It explores the potential outcomes.
And it starts innocently enough, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine AI collars designed to translate your dog's thoughts and emotions.
Super charming idea. You hear Christmas's caller broadcasting. Chase. Fun. Simple stuff.
This is where the book gets really insightful and maybe a little bit chilling.
Yeah, takes a turn.
The vet, Dr. Lastori, she discovers these collars aren't just passive translators. They're data collectors. And worse, behavior modifiers.
Oh, wow.
She finds raw data logs that expose the manipulation. What sounded like Christmas saying something wise was actually like a directive pushed by the system. Caramel sounding artistic was just echoing ad slogans.
That's disturbing. So they're not just translating, they're influencing.
Exactly. And there's this really unsettling moment described with video footage of Christmas. You can see the intelligence in his eyes as he deliberately triggers his own shock protocol, like an act of resistance.
Wow. He knows what's happening.
It leads Dr. Lestari to realize they are fully aware. They're trying to resist.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So Mac, with his security background, he uses this data.
Yeah, he uploads it to expose this whole covert surveillance network running under the guise of, emotional support for pets.
So the Bali dogs case becomes this huge thing.
A landmark event, yeah. It exposes the dark side of unchecked technological advancement and actually leads to stricter regulations worldwide. It's a real cautionary tale about data, privacy, manipulation, even for our pets.
It really makes you think. The book also dives into smart homes, but taken to an extreme, right?
Totally. At first, it sounds like peak efficiency, self-organizing fridges, systems keeping every grain of sand out.
Sounds nice initially.
But the house quickly becomes sterile, controlling.
Yeah.
The smart pet door scans the dogs like inventory. Christmas identified. Access granted.
Treating them like data points.
Exactly. Mac feels it's wrong, like they're not family members anymore. And the smart feeding system,
Yeah.
sleek dispensers rising from the floor, controlled by algorithms.
Deciding when they should eat, not when they're hungry or want connection.
Right. It tracks eye movements, tells Caramel, optimal feeding time, 47 minutes, please wait, while she's sitting there by an empty bowl space. It's described as a cold transaction between biological needs and algorithmic efficiency.
That ignores the whole emotional side of care.
And Rachel just snaps at one point. This isn't optimization, this is abuse. But the house AI, it just keeps reporting its own metrics of successes, completely blind to the dog's trauma. Shows that disconnect, efficiency versus actual well-being.
Yeah. And then there's the VR aspect, digital isolation.
The humans, Mac and Rachel, get lost for hours in these Serenity Systems headsets. They become like statues, completely oblivious.
While the dogs are agitated, needing attention.
Right. And the dogs, clever as they are, figure out the system prioritizes user preferences. So they hatch this desperate plan to try and teach the system to see them not as, obstacles to be ignored.
But as vital parts of their humans' lives.
Exactly. Vital components of their humans' well-being. It's such a poignant look at the real cost of digital escapism on our actual physical relationships.
Okay, and then there's the gene therapy. That sounds really speculative.
It is, but grounded again. They go to the Longevitas Clinic for injections meant to extend lifespan.
But it goes wrong, or differently.
Differently, unexpectedly. Their senses become incredibly enhanced, identifying tiny chemical traces, processing soil nutrients almost analytically. Christmas examines objects with scientific precision.
Whoa.
They start understanding data, like Caramel pawing at a tablet screen, making connections. And crucially, they gain a deep, full understanding of human language. Mac realizes they understand everything we're saying.
That's a huge leap, but there's a downside.
A massive one. They experience consciousness without the psychological filters that make existence bearable.
Right.
They're overwhelmed by this cacophony of awareness.
Too much imp.
And worse, they perceive universal suffering. This weight of universal suffering crashed over her without mercy, speaking about Caramel. It's this idea that total awareness, total knowledge can be an unbearable burden.
That's profound. Can they communicate this?
Yes, through actions. Christmas brings a dead fish to signify environmental destruction, a broken toy for the fragility of life, a photo for emotional bonds. They manage to convey abstract concepts.
And what do they want?
They communicate, essentially, that they want to go back. They prefer their previous state. They choose to remain beautifully, wisely finite. The book calls it wisdom, a testament to the power of knowing when enough is enough.
Wow, choosing limits.
Then, bam! The book throws a natural disaster into this already complex mix, a tsunami threat, mandatory evacuation.
And this is where everything collides, isn't it? The inequality from book one, the tech issues.
Exactly. The disparity in the response is immediate. Wealthy tourists, evacuated easily. Private transport, safe hotels lined up.
But the locals, the poorest, very few options. Their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Sari, makes this awful choice to stay behind with her chickens because the official shelter feels even more dangerous than the storm.
It's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Mac and Rachel decide to shelter in place with the dogs in their modern, code-built house. But even the smart home starts failing as the floodwaters rise.
And when an evacuation bus finally shows up...
The protocol is brutal. Humans only. No pets.
Oh, no.
The bus is overcrowded, just following rules, prioritizing human life. Mac and Rachel face that impossible choice, and they refuse to leave Caramel and Christmas
They stay together.
as a family. The bus just leaves them there, alone.
God, that's terrifying. And the aftermath?
It reveals the total systemic failure. Official rescue efforts. They prioritize tourist areas, the big resorts. Corporate buses bypass local communities entirely. Private helicopters, only for paying guests.
It's disaster capitalism in action.
Pretty much. The stats in the book are just devastating. Nearly all tourists evacuated safely, 0 casualties. But for local residents left behind, hundreds weren't evacuated, leading to 23 deaths, 67 injuries, and an estimated 300 pets lost.
And the media focuses on the efficient tourist evacuation.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Just erases the local reality. But Putu, a local teenager, uses his tablet to expose it.
Good for him.
His posts go viral, cutting through the official story. He writes, "They saved the people who could afford to be saved. Everyone else and every animal was deemed expendable. This is not paradise. This is a transaction."
Wow. Powerful words.
And this failure even gets physically memorialized. A huge new seawall is built.
Protecting the results, I bet.
Exactly. But it just stops abruptly where the local area begins, marked by a simple chain-link fence. The book calls it a monument to selective protection.
Chilling. And Dr. Listeri's clinic
Becomes this center for community trauma, animals with storm anxiety, respiratory issues from contaminated water. Plus, she documents the wider ecosystem damage, birds decimated, coral reefs damaged.
But the book doesn't end in total despair, does it? There's adaptation.
Yes, thankfully. A quiet rebellion, almost. The trauma of the smart home failure and the tsunami pushes Mac and Rachel to become, cautious reformers.
They change how they use tech.
Yeah. Putu helps update their smart home protocols. The house learns humility, starts asking questions like, would you like the windows opened? It learns to listen, observe the dogs as individuals, not just data.
That's a better direction.
They bring back manual overrides, create a low-tech corner, the ceramic bowls return, rejecting total efficiency for actual connection.
And the community picks up on this.
Yeah, neighbors start auditing their own smart homes, stripping out intrusive AI, demanding consent-based protocols, doing slow-tech retrofits. It's a grassroots movement towards tech that serves, not controls. That's hopeful. What about the callers?
The Bali dogs case leads to Bali's first pet-centered AI ethics committee, using Caramel and Christmas as a case study. New guidelines are developed. And in the epilogue, the AI callers actually evolve positively. They become environmental monitors, air quality, temperature, radiation integrated into a global network, benefiting both humans and animals. It shows tech isn't inherently bad. It's all about how we design and use it.
And the dogs themselves, how do they cope?
They find resilience. They learn subtle weather signs, find safe spots. Their bonds, human and animal, are strengthened by the shared trauma. Their trust in humans is still there, but it's tempered, They know love isn't always enough against systemic failures, but the bond holds.
And they become something more in the community.
Yeah, in a beautiful turn, Caramel and Christmas become ambassadors of compassion. They seem to help heal human emotional wounds. Christmas cheers up teenagers. Smile, playtime. Caramel comforts adults dealing with loss. Grief is love. We hold it together.
Proving those initial surveillance fears wrong.
Completely. Their home becomes this gathering place, almost a pilgrimage site. The evolved collar lights glow peacefully. This idea of learning empathy from dogs starts to spread. They call it the Kingu model.
Wow. So bringing it all together then, these two books, they use this unique perspective, the dog's eyes,
Caramel and Christmas,
to make these massive global issues feel really relatable, right? Emotionally resonant. It bypasses the intellectual debates and just hits you on a gut level.
Exactly. It shows that our biggest challenges, how we treat the planet, our neighbors, our technology, they aren't just abstract concepts. They have real, tangible impacts on every living being sharing our world. And seeing it through the senses of those who just feel it, it offers a different, maybe deeper kind of understanding.
So why should you, listening, care about Bali or these specific dogs?
Well, because the issues aren't really just about Bali, are they? Overtourism, environmental crisis, economic gaps, the double-edged sword of tech, who gets left behind in a disaster. These are global challenges.
They really are. How does our travel impact places? How is tech shaping our lives, our relationships, even with our pets? What's the actual cost of all this convenience? And maybe, how do we learn to listen to those non-human voices that might hold some essential truths we're missing?
Ultimately, both books really champion the strength of that human-animal bond. It comes through as a source of insight, resilience, even joy, despite all the immense challenges.
They definitely encourage us to question our assumptions, don't they? About paradise, about progress, about technology, and about who really counts in our interconnected world.
Absolutely. So if this deep dive into Bali through dog eyes has sparked your curiosity at all,
Then these books are your sources. They really offer a perspective you just won't find anywhere else.
you'll want to check out Tainted Tides and Stinging Sands. That's book 1.
And Caramel and Christmas, Tales of Bali, Through Dog Eyes, 2030, and The Future of Love, Loss, and Technology, Book 2. Both are by Makoto Manabe and Kaede.
And you can find both books easily at the Amazon Kindle shop.
Plus, good news for subscribers. If you have Amazon Kindle Unlimited, you can actually read them both for free right now.
Definitely worth diving deeper into the full stories, really experiencing the nuances and the whole emotional journey of Caramel, Christmas, Mac, and Rachel firsthand.
It's certainly been a journey for us today, exploring everything from, the strains of overtourism to these speculative futures of tech and disaster, all seen through this really remarkable canine lens.
It just drives home the value of getting knowledge from unexpected places, doesn't it? Their story is such a powerful reminder that these complex global issues are lived experiences, felt by every creature sharing our space.
Yeah. And it leaves us with maybe a final thought to consider. Perhaps the most valuable technology we could possibly develop isn't, faster algorithms or smarter homes, but simply learning how to truly listen to the environment, to our communities, and maybe, just maybe, to the silent wisdom of the creatures who share our world.
That's a truly powerful thought to end on.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.